Hello, and welcome to Vital Records. I'm Sally Almond from the Office of Vital Records at the Minnesota Department of Health, and I will guide you through this introductory class for new County Vital Records staff. This particular class is designed to provide a background to Minnesota Vital Records, but it's just one part of your training as a new County Vital Records Office staff member. In addition to the videos on the website, your supervisor, mentor, or a Vital Records peer will share information about your office, and a training version of our electronic Vital Records system is available for you to practice entering transactions. We call them customer service requests. As we go through this and other sessions, we will show you how to find reference information, how to get help, and how to access user guides and job aids. The sessions will introduce a number of topics, regulations, and activities, but keep in mind this isn't comprehensive. Be prepared to utilize all the resources so you can learn more at your own pace. So for now, find a quiet place where you can view this without interruption, and let's get started. Vital records are records that document vital events, such as births, deaths, marriages, and fetal deaths. In Minnesota, birth, death, and fetal death records are centralized, and they're maintained at the state level while the oversight of marriage records happens in the counties. These training sessions will cover birth and death certificates and records, but not marriage or fetal death. Your supervisor will help you learn about marriage records if that's part of your job. But County Vital Records staff do not issue or maintain fetal death reports. They're issued exclusively by the Office of Vital Records. Our laws are the backbone of our work, and what you're seeing on your screen right now is the Minnesota Revisor website. This is where all Minnesota laws are posted for public view and where we find the regulations governing vital records. Our laws are found in statutes and administrative rules. Both of these separate types of regulations have the full force and effect of a law, but they behave slightly differently and they have different origins. Generally speaking, statutes tell us what to do, and rules work with the statutes to fill in details. Although legislative sessions don't often impact vital records, Minnesota statutes are updated after the session ends on June 30th. On the other hand, rules don't change very often because the rulemaking process has many more steps. Here's an example of statute and its corresponding rule. For example, this death registration statute tells us that all deaths have to be registered within 5 days. And the rule tells us that the place of death is wherever the death was pronounced. See how they work together? As you become familiar with statutes and rules, it's important to understand that they're living documents, and legal challenges may change the way we do things. We'll let you know whenever that happens. Be sure you stay current with communications from the Office of Vital Records. Minnesota Statutes 144.211 through 144.227 comprise the Vital Records Act, and most of our regulations are found within the Act. The Vital Records Act defines the language that we use. It assigns duties to you, me, and other vital records partners. It regulates disclosure of certificates and information, and it establishes fees for certificates, reports, and amendments. It also sets penalties for fraud or misuse. The Vital Records Act also regulates the activities of the state registrar and the Office of Vital Records within the Minnesota Department of Health. When we talk about OVR, we mean the State Office of Vital Records. OVR is led by Molly Crawford, the state registrar, and broken into 4 separate units. The registrar's office unit manages strategic planning, projects, and communications. Security and Records handles historical records and works with law enforcement and passport offices to verify certificates and investigate fraudulent activity. And our registration and fulfillment group issues certificates, amends and replaces records, and files parentage documents and applications. The fourth unit is the system and application support, and you will likely work most closely with these people. Located within the MDH, Minnesota Department of Health website, OVR has developed several pages of information about vital records. The MDH website is located at www.health.state.mn.us, and it's easily found by Google, Bing, and other search engines. Let's have a look. There's the Minnesota Department of Health website. To navigate to vital records information, stay in the upper left-hand corner. The first topic that you see is individual and family health. Click on that, and you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, certificates and records. If you're a person who needs to get a birth certificate or a death certificate, click on the appropriate heading, and then look for the instructions and information that you need. If you're changing a birth record, if you need to get a birth certificate, you might look to see where to get one, where all the county vital records offices are, or you could go back and look at the different types of certificates that are available. Maybe you just need the application. All of these things are available on the website. I'm going to go back, excuse me, to certificates and records. The same thing is available for death certificates, all kinds of information there. And we've organized several pages for professionals who work with vital records. Click on the vital records for professionals and go down to county vital records offices. This is what that looks like. And we recommend that you find and bookmark or favorite this site. The menu at the left navigates to several full pages of forms, information, all kinds of things here, available to you at any time. In fact, there's so much information here that we've recorded a tour of the website and all of the help that's available. It's on the training page down here at the bottom. So look for consumer information like applications and information about how to change a record under the headings birth or death records. Just because it's consumer information doesn't mean that it's not important to you. Resources for county vital records offices have their own pages, and you'll find user guides, job aids, all kinds of information there, especially for you. On every one of the Vital Records website pages, you'll find contact information for the Vital Records Help Desk. This group of people manages the phones and email inbox for partners like you and the general public, and they should be your first contact for assistance. Now, we're going to look closely at the different types of data in Minnesota Vital Records. Similar to the Vital Records Act, the Data Practices Act, which is found in Chapter 13 of the statutes, regulates data and information sharing. We're surrounded by data, and every bit of information is categorized, and there are restrictions for each category. In Vital Records, we deal with 3 data categories: public data, private data, and confidential data. Most Minnesota Vital Records are comprised of public data, and this type of data is accessible to anyone for any reason. Some records are confidential, and all birth records contain private health data, but don't worry too much about private data. It doesn't appear in certificates. You will work mostly with public and confidential data and records. In Minnesota, all death records and most birth records are public records. Public records are available for viewing, and we can share this data without having to redact identifying information. Many people can buy certificates from public records. Birth records for children of unmarried parents are confidential, unless mom requested a public record at the time of birth. Having a confidential record means it's not viewable, and very few people are eligible for a certificate from a confidential record. If you're working in the electronic vital records system, you can tell a record is confidential by the red confidential restricted access note in the system. It's right here. Before we go any further, let's distinguish between data and certificates. Up to now, we've been talking about data. And even though you will work mostly with certificates, you need to know about the classifications of data to understand who is eligible for a certificate. Data are the information found in a vital record. Certificates are legal documents printed on fancy paper. Not everyone is eligible for a certified copy or certificate from a public record, just like confidential birth certificates are available to a few people, even though confidential data is not accessible. That's super confusing. But just remember, laws regulate data, and more people can get certificates from public records than from confidential ones. Certificate eligibility is called tangible interest in administrative rule, but that language is changing. Doesn't matter. Whatever we call it, these restrictions kind of act like a gate, protecting vital records while facilitating access for the people who should have them. Whenever someone requests a certificate, they're required to complete an application, pay the fee, show ID to prove their identity, and in some cases they also have to provide additional documents to show their relationship to the subject of the record. That's a lot to remember, and OVR has developed several resources to help you in your role as a county vital records professional. On the screen right now is the Authorized Requester's Job Aid. You'll find this on the website for County Vital Records offices that we showed earlier. And on the training page of that website, where you found this video, the one that you're watching right now, you'll find recorded office hours training sessions on the topics of eligibility and acceptable ID. These sessions explore the different types of relationships to the subject of the record and list acceptable forms of ID and criteria for identification. All of this comes from the regulations. We strongly recommend that you take the time to view these short classes, as these topics will be important to you when you begin to issue certificates. In summary, most people don't care about data types. They just want the certificate they need in order to get stuff done. That stuff is important. Often the certificate is an identity or it has a legal use, so we aren't entitled to everybody else's certificates, even if the record is public. Knowing about something is different than having a legal document, right? Your job is to pay attention to your customer's relationship to the subject of the record and know that some birth records are confidential and eligibility is quite restricted. One more thing before we move away from types of data. Confidential data is only confidential for 100 years or if the subject of the record is deceased for at least 10 years and 30 or more years have elapsed since the record was filed. That is, unless we're talking about an adoption. Adoption records are handled differently. Minnesota statutes and rules also direct vital record security and require that everyone who uses the vital record system receives security training. At its most basic level, a birth certificate is an identity document, and it's proof of age, proof of family, and proof of citizenship. People need birth certificates to get an ID, like a driver's license or a passport, and we mark birth records deceased after a Minnesotan dies because it prevents anyone from stealing their identity. Likewise, death certificates can be the key that unlocks access to property, accounts, insurance, or survivor benefits, so security is important. Most certificates are printed on security paper. Like money, security paper has invisible and visible fibers, along with microprinting and other special features that make it hard to make and easy to identify fakes. The document control number and barcode in the lower left corner is used to track each sheet of security paper. That code helps prevent thefts and validates certificates. Our electronic vital record system is secure. It's called the Minnesota Registration and Certification System, the MRNC for short, and this unique system is used statewide by all vital records partners. User access for everyone is restricted to the user's role or business need. The statewide inventory of security paper is managed by each county office and maintained in MRNC. Unlike other computer systems, our activity is monitored. Vital record security isn't limited to technology, though. For your safety and the safety of vital records, we want you to have a physical barrier, like a counter between you and the general public. And always, always, always keep that security paper locked up and protect any historical records you may have from fire, flood, and damage. One more thing about security. Administrative rule also gives us an out. In fact, we're prohibited from issuing if we feel the need to authenticate documents or if we suspect any fraudulent activity. This might mean that you have to tell a customer to return tomorrow because you're going to verify something, or maybe referring them to the Office of Vital Records at the state. So, remember that our vital record interactions are regulated by statute and rule. Death records and many birth records are public records. More people are eligible for certificates from public records than are eligible for confidential birth certificates, and you have to pay attention to the requester's relationship to the subject of the record. Security in all of its forms is extremely important, and the Office of Vital Records provides communication, training, and resources for all vital records partners. We have a lot of resources for you on the Health Department website. Go to Individual and Family Health, Certificates and Records, and then Vital Records for Professionals, County Vital Records offices to find the special help, especially for you. And perhaps the most important resource for you is the help desk. Their contact information is on every page of the website and in the MRNC system. This has been the first step of a multi-part training process for new County Vital Records employees. Look to the training page of the MDH website for County Vital Records offices for additional classes and meet with your mentor or colleagues in your office for more information. Thanks so much for your attention and welcome to Vital Records.